What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and this one is my team selection for Game Week 2. So I'm going to go through how the team is looking, thoughts on transfers, captaincy, all that good stuff, and I'm going to take you through how I did in Game Week 1. So if you enjoyed these videos, make sure to give them a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and if you want help with your team, planning throughout the season, suggested transfers, and all that good stuff as well, make sure to check out Fantasy Football Hub. All the links you need are in the description below. So Game Week 1 was pretty good for me. I finished on 80 points total, and that gave me a game week rank of 710,070. And because it's the first game week, my overall rank is exactly the same. So a pretty solid start, but I know from experience just how quickly things can change in the first few weeks, for better or worse. So there's no room for complacency. That being said, if you could get a game week rank around 700k every single week, you get pretty close to winning FPL. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but maybe this is the season I can finally win it. And if you want to follow along, make sure that you subscribe. In terms of the squad that I picked, only 3 of the first 11 blanked in Game Week 1. That was Pickford, Fernandes and Rashford. Man United attackers in particular were really disappointing. I thought that game against Wolves at Old Trafford was pretty much a banker for goals, and Man United were just pretty terrible. I will talk more about Fernandes and Rashford when we discuss the Game Week 2 team, but not happy with 3 points each from them. With Pickford, you could say that was a mistake, because I spent most of pre-season saying I didn't want to back the Everton defence, and that for 4.5 million I preferred Steele, Johnston and Flecken. In the end I went for none of them. I chose to go for the Pickford and Turner rotation, so I did get sucked in by that, but it's way too early to say that it was a mistake. I do have 0.5 in the bank, so I could have gone for Onana, who's already racked up 9 points. But if you watch the Man United game, you're probably saying to yourself, how did they get a clean sheet anyway? So Pickford disappointing in Game Week 1. Let's see how he does over the first few weeks. All of my defenders returned. None of them got a clean sheet, but they all got an assist. Chilwell and Estepinian got bonus points, so they both finished on 7. Obviously, I got really lucky with a Gabriel to Saliba news, so I made that swap. For anyone that didn't and has Gabriel, hopefully the points difference won't end up being too much, but obviously I did get lucky with that, and then I got even luckier with the assist, because all it was a sideways pass to Saka, and then Saka's just nailed it in from like 20-25 yards, and that's just one of those assists that you sometimes get in FPL. The other midfielders, Martinelli, great assist, that little back heel. Obviously, Saka got the goal I spoke about, plus bonus. And then Burmo was one of my favourite moments of Game Week 1, because it would have been easy to have been kind of talked out of him, because in the end his ownership was quite low. It was lower than Eze and Matoma, both overall and within kind of Twitter and YouTube community. But he got his penalty. We knew he was on them, and he came really close to scoring another goal as well. And it kind of went, like I said, that yes, they're going to miss Tony, but I don't think it's going to be this massive miss that people think, because Thomas Frank and Brentford just know what they're doing. So I'm really happy with the Mbermo pick, especially because Spurs was probably their toughest game in the first kind of 6 game weeks. So to already have a return and now a great fixture run looks pretty good. Up front, Watkins obviously smashed by Newcastle 5-1, but he's still got an assist. And then Erling Haaland, basically normal service resumed. 2 goals, 3 bonus, 13 points, captain, 26, happy days. So far, not regretting not having Salah. Game Week 2 might be a bit different. So my defence is pretty straightforward for Game Week 2, but I do have that 0.5 million in the bank, which is burning a bit of a hole in my pocket, so I will discuss how I could use that in a minute. With my goalkeepers, because of that rotation between Turner and Pickford, the decision is basically made for me. I don't really rate the Nottingham Forest defence, but I don't rate the Everton one either, so I'd rather take Sheffield United at home than Aston Villa away. So Pickford's going to be on my bench, and then in Game Week 3 he'll be back into the first 11, but for Game Week 2 I'm going to play Matt Turner. My back 3 is the same as Game Week 1, so that is Chilwell, Estepinian and Saliba. They've all got away games this week. So Chilwell is West Ham, Estepinian is Wolves and Saliba is Crystal Palace. Most of my first 11 has an away game, which isn't ideal, especially when I don't have any Liverpool players against Bournemouth at home, but I knew that was going to be the case when I built my Game Week 1 squad, and Game Week 2 does feel like a bit of damage limitation. Like if I can get close to the Salah and Trent teams and not fall too far behind, I'll consider that a win. And obviously, if I do better, happy days, because from game week 3 onwards, I think I'm going to be in a slightly better position. So I'm not too worried about that. And ultimately, I've got to play those 3 defenders because Kabori from Luton is blanking. Their game against Burnley is obviously postponed until later in the season. And Udoghi's got Man United at home. And despite how bad Man United were against Spurs, I would expect them to score in that game. And I think Chilwell and Estupiñán would just have to have a really bad fixture for me to consider benching them because they're such good players in attack. And obviously defensively their teams are good as well. With Saliba, if you own him, there is almost no reason to be thinking about getting rid of him. I think Crystal Palace away this week, Fulham at home game week 3, perfectly good fixtures to play him, especially when we know how good that Arsenal defence is. Unless, of course, you've got 0.5 million in the bank and you really love Reece James. And then maybe you could consider making that move this week. Now, most people would say, and they'd be absolutely right, just roll the transfer this week, see if anything else crops up in game week 3, and if it doesn't, you can just make the transfer anyway. And that is absolutely correct. One thing I'm slightly worried about is a price rise for Reece James. So you can see these for free on Fantasy Football Hub. He's currently plus 61% to rise. If he gets to 90% or higher, there's a good chance he's going to go up in price, potentially before the deadline. And if that happens, I then need to make a second transfer to fund the move to get him. And it's not like this is a massive knee-jerk because James blanked in game week 1. But if you were watching the videos, you know how much or how close I came to having him in my game week 1 squad. And now I'm thinking after that Liverpool game, I really wish I'd just started with him. And it's not that Saliba's bad. It's just that I think Reece James is better. So would I rather have Saliba against Crystal Palace or James against West Ham? Definitely Reece James. And then from game week 3 onwards, I would definitely want James. Luton at home, Forest at home, all those good fixtures we've spoken about plenty of times for Chelsea. And I put this through the planner on Fantasy Football Hub. Again, all the links you need for this stuff is in the description below. If I was to sell Saliba, there's not really any weeks where it makes I'm just going to put Reece James in it, where it makes a big difference to my team because Udoghi on the bench covers really well for Estupiñán. So in game week 3, you'd have Chilwell and James against West Ham away, Estupiñán against Wolves away. In game week 3, you'd play all 3 of them again. So Chelsea have got Luton, Estupiñán has West Ham at home. In game week 4, again, you'd play both Chelsea players because they got Nottingham Forest at home. Estupiñán's got Newcastle at home. I wouldn't mind playing him in that fixture, but if I didn't want to, Udoghi's got Burnley away. And if he's still first choice and playing week in, week out, that wouldn't be that bad. And it's a similar situation in game week 5. Chilwell and Reece James have got Bournemouth away. Estupiñán has Man United away. But Udoghi has got Sheffield United at home. So there's not really a week up until about game week 10, I think, where I would even want Saliba anyway. And it just comes back to that point that he's not bad, but I think Reece James is better. Now, ultimately, right, I'm not sitting here trying to make content for the sake of it. I probably will just roll because anything can happen going into game week 3. And obviously, Pochettino did say that Reece James came off against Liverpool because he was tired. But there is part of me that thinks, is there a knock there? Or is he perhaps not up to full match fitness? And if that's the case, could there be issues over the next few weeks? So I think the correct decision, and if I was kind of answering a question for any of your teams, is probably to roll. But if Reece James gets close to rising, I am going to be tempted to just pull the trigger this week. So my midfield 5 is Saka, Mbeumo, Martinelli, Fernandes and Rashford. And we should probably start by talking about the 2 Man United players because if you own them, you're probably frustrated. And I get it. That game against Wolves on Monday wasn't great. I watched the whole thing. Am I worried about how Rashford and Fernandes plus the whole Man United team played? Yes. Am I concerned with how quickly Ten Hag can fix that before Spurs away? Definitely. But even all that being said, I don't really see any reason why you'd sell Fernandes or Rashford this week for a few reasons, right? One, they don't just become bad FPL options overnight. Spurs away is not a completely awful fixture. And in game week 3, they got Nottingham Forest at home. But also, if you're looking to bring someone in this week as a kind of medium to long-term option, you have to guarantee that they're a better choice and preferably a better choice from game week 2. So take Salah, for example. I would love to have him in my team, as you know, but he's a lot more money, and I don't think taking -8s, -12s is worth it. Any other Liverpool player for Bournemouth at home, if you nail the right one, happy days, but after that, they'd be a minute's risk anyway. And then the player that keeps kind of going around is James Maddison, and I do think he could be a really good long-term option that will continue to tick over with points. but is he definitely better in game week 2 with Man United at home than Fernandes or Rashford are with Spurs away? I would say probably not. And then in game week 3, like I said, Man United have got Nottingham Forest at home. So there's not even necessarily a need to make that move in game week 3. You could wait until game week 4 and then decide how things are looking. And I get that Maddison might go up in price, but I think that's worth it for the additional information. And if we look at game week 2 outside of that, the other best fixtures are probably Forest at home to Sheffield United. Even if I wanted Gibbs White, they've got awful fixtures after that. Fulham against Brentford, no midfielders I'd want there. Man City against Newcastle, maybe Foden, especially with De Bruyne out. But I feel like loads of Foden owners are already asking me whether they should sell him after just 1 week. And I don't really want that headache. Diaby maybe against Everton. You kind of get the point, right? There's not a huge amount of options that I can go and buy for Fernandes or Rashford that I think are guaranteed better options in game week 2 and beyond. So I will definitely be keeping them. I really hope Man United learn to play some good attacking football sooner rather than later. With Mbeumo, he's definitely staying. I think in game week 1 there was a case to be made that Matoma was the slightly better option because in the short term obviously he had Luton at home. But if I was picking now, I would definitely go for Mbeumo. The fixture run is incredible. Fulham away, they conceded loads of chances to Everton. Brentford are a better attacking team. Then you got 2 home games, Palace at home, Bournemouth at home. Newcastle away is tough. But then it's Everton at home, Forest away. So unless something goes really wrong with Brentford or there's an injury or something like that, I can't really see myself considering dropping in Mbeumo until at least game week 8. Because even with the likes of Richarlison and Maddison, with Mbeumo, it costs less money, so got more money to spend elsewhere. And he's definitely on penalties. Whereas with Spurs, we don't know who their penalty taker is right now. So I'd even make an argument that because of the money saving, Mbeumo is still a better option than Maddison. I know lots of you would disagree with that. But for now, I'm going to stand by it. I might kind of rethink that in a couple of game weeks. Saka's obviously great. Most nailed Arsenal attacker. Probably still on penalties. I don't think... I thought Arsenal dominated Forest, but I don't know if they created a huge amount of chances. But again, they got such good fixtures, there's no real use worrying about that. I think going into game week 1, Martinelli was always the one I was least sure about with this midfield 5 because I do think at some point he's going to lose some minutes. But he played like 85 minutes against Forest. So if that continues... then I'm obviously going to hold him for Palace away and Fulham at home. But after that, if I do need some money for other moves, he probably would be the first one that I'd move on. But that's the beauty of not knee-jerking straight away. If he's continuing to play really well and Rashford and Fernandes are still not looking great, then it might be that I hold on to Martinelli and sell the Man United players instead. And just in terms of needing money for other moves, like right now everything seems pretty easy. But at some point... round about game week 5, maybe game week 6, suddenly Kieran Trippier comes into my mind because he's got Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, Burnley at home, West Ham away, Palace at home, and he costs 6.5 million. Now, obviously, you can get into that Newcastle defence for cheaper. Share is only 5 million, Botman is 4.5. But if I want the best option from that team in defence, Trippier is the one that I need. And he costs 6.5 million, which is $1 million more than any of my other defenders. So I might need to get money by doing something like Martinelli or Fernandes to like an Eze or a Richarlison or a Maddison or someone like that. So I think for now, it's just the easy decision to just stick with the players I selected before game week 1, give them at least another chance, and even if they don't do that well this week, when you see the team for game week 3 with all those great home fixtures, it's just not going to feel that bad anyway. And then up front, it's Ollie Watkins and Erling Haaland. And outside of Matt Turner in goal, they're the only other players in my first 11 with a home fixture. So if everyone else does end up blanking with all their away games, hopefully Watkins and Haaland can at least get me some points. Just on Watkins... there's lots of nice new shiny forwards on offer at the moment, like João Pedro. Lots of people have bought Isak. There's Nicholas Jackson as well. But unless I need the money, I don't really see any point in moving off Watkins just yet. Like Everton at home is a pretty good fixture. Straight after that, it's Burnley away. Bit more difficult in game week 4, Liverpool away. But straight after that, it's Crystal Palace at home. So even if I wanted someone like Nicholas Jackson for Chelsea's run, I don't necessarily need to rush to get him in game week 3 because Burnley away is almost as good as Luton at home. Like obviously I'd rather have Luton at home, but you kind of get what I'm saying. And I said this pre-season, players like Watkins, they're kind of safe, solid, you know they're always going to start, lots of goal threat, probably penalties as well. So there's never a mad rush to get rid of them. And I kind of like that because it doesn't force you into loads of moves. But if I do need the money for a Reece James or a Trippier, I've got players like Watkins, Martinelli and Fernandes where there are other options that I could go to later on. But for now, I'm going to stick with him. Haaland, not really too much to say. Out of all the players I've got to choose from, he's easily the best captain. Obviously, the best captain for Game Week 2 is Salah, but I don't have him. Am I worried about that? Well, obviously, there's a little part of me that thinks he could easily get 15 plus points, and that would be frustrating not owning him. But I made that decision in Game Week 1. I'm still pretty happy with it. The only thing that might look like a mistake is I considered doing Martinelli, Fernandes, Watkins to Mitoma, Salah and João Pedro, and all three of those players in the Salah combination returned in Game Week 1. So if Salah also beats Haaland in Game Week 2 with captaincy factored in, and Mitoma and João Pedro continue to return, then that combination might have been a better way to start, and I could have redistributed the funds from Game Week 3 onwards. But I think even if I went that way, I'd probably redistribute the funds to get a team similar to this. So I'm still hoping long-term I've made the right decision. But as I've already kind of mentioned, I know there's probably going to be some damage in Game Week 2 and I might fall behind. But from Game Week 3 onwards, hopefully I'll be okay. So the only move I'm really considering for this team is Saliba to Reece James. I know deep down it's probably not worth doing this week, but that might not completely stop me doing it. Let me know what you think about that transfer in the comments below. I did also check the AI suggested transfers from Fantasy Football Hub. If you want to check them out, there's a link in the description below, up to 50% off at the moment. If you don't win your mini league, you get your money back. Terms and conditions do apply for that. Make sure you check them out before signing up. And they have suggested doing Martinelli to Maddison. Now, I kind of get why that is the case. Maddison's a little bit cheaper. Definitely nailed on. I was going to say almost nailed on, but definitely nailed on. His minutes will be good. There is probably some worry with Martinelli that at some point Trossard might start, or he might start getting subbed off early. But I think with Palace at home and Fulham away, if he starts those two, I probably just want to keep hold of him for now, but it's definitely food for thought. So if you want to check that out, links in the description below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it and hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on podcast, make sure to rate 5 stars as well. That really helps out. Otherwise, I'll catch you tomorrow for another video where I do final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 2 deadline.